Is SMU the best team in the ACC? Legitimate question here. Legitimate question here. They're unbeaten. Miami is not. Now, Miami covered. And I said on my score prediction at Miami, you got to prove it or I'm not going to pick you to cover here, which they did by 4 whole points. Miami has come up with the most disgusting, I mean filthy awful, for those of you that are gamblers out there, backdoor covers, front door covers, I guess it would be, late escapes to cover the spread. They can score points quicker than anybody in the country. In the second half, Wake Forest was competitive. They were competitive with Miami. There was a small sliver of upset potential. It was 17-14 in the second half, and then Miami won on a 25-0 run. There was a defensive touchdown in this game. There were turnovers. There was Miami scoring quickly. They can just throw the ball all over the yard. But I'm still left wondering, are they the most impressive team in the ACC? I don't know that the answer to that question is yes. Because SMU is just continuing to roll through this conference. Remember the league that SMU got into only because they bought their way into it? Well, guess what? Money talks in college athletics, and SMU's only loss is a 3-point home defeat in week 3 to BYU, who will still be ranked in the top 25 after their road loss to Arizona State. But here are the point totals that Kevin Jennings has led this SMU offense to, because this is a name you need to know. If SMU ends up squaring off with Miami in the ACC championship game, guess what? There are going to be so many yards in that game, it's going to make your head spin because the quarterbacks are going to be spinning the ball all over the yard. Here are the point totals on SMU's 8-game winning streak. 66, 42, 34, 40, 28, 48, 38, and 33. Do you think Rhett Lashley knows offense? Do you think he knows? I think he's got a pretty good idea. The only team that's held them under 30 in this win streak is Duke and Manny Diaz, who are in action as I record this particular show. And they're beating Virginia Tech 14-7, but, low stakes game there. But SMU just continues to impress. You may not think very much of going on the road and blowing out Virginia. Fine. Virginia may or may not be a bowl team this year. They're sitting at 5-6. They've got Virginia Tech next week in the in-state rivalry matchup there. But SMU's got Cal. They're at home, and they're going to be fine. Cal, by the way, scraped by Stanford. Oh, boy, the Cardinal almost did it, but alas, a 14-0 run by Cal in the fourth quarter. Turns out that helps to get you a victory. But I just wonder how this ACC picture is going to shake out. Clemson played the Citadel this week, and I think they should be left out of the ACC title game for that fact alone. They don't control their own fate. It's SMU and Miami. If SMU and Miami win next week, Miami's going to Syracuse. And everybody in Clemson, South Carolina, as they get ready to take on a good top 25 Gamecocks team, that's going to be a phenomenal football game, by the way. They are going to be watching very carefully what happens up in Syracuse, New York. That's the only way Clemson can get in. But SMU's good. SMU's good. And here's what I want to pose to you. I was talking about Indiana and the prospect of them being an 11-1 team, and they should get into the playoff, and I think in all likelihood they will. What do you do with an 11-2 ACC championship game loser? What do you do? What's the committee going to do? Because now you have the very real possibility of far fewer 10-2 SEC teams than we previously thought. Auburn's up 21-7 right now on Texas A&M. LSU is out of the picture. And Ole Miss is out of the picture at 9-3. What are you going to do? What happens next week if Tennessee were to lose to Vanderbilt? I don't know. Vanderbilt's a pretty good football team. I don't know what they're going to do. Are you going to leave out an 11-win Power 4 team? That'd be a shame. But would the committee do it? I think I got to see the rankings first before I make definitive statements there. But speaking of definitive statements, one that I have made consistently is Penn State is a good football team, but they are not great. So the rule half continued for Penn State and the Nittany Lions. They win by one single solitary point. Now, yes, it would have been by 3 if they hadn't had an extra point blocked, but they had an extra point blocked in return for 2, and Minnesota almost did it. They were almost rowing that boat, but one of the oars broke off in the fourth quarter, and Penn State was able to snatch it up, attach it to their boat, and row on to 10-1. Penn State next week has got Maryland at home. I thought Maryland would pull an upset this week. They did not, so Penn State's going to be fine. Penn State 11-1. Congratulations. You're not in the Big Ten championship game, so you're going to get a little bit of off time here, and you're going to be in the college football playoff. The perennial bridesmaid in the college football playoff is going to get invited, and Penn State's good. Penn State's a good football team. You could not convince me to place any amount of money, I don't care if it's 10 cents, on Penn State to win the national championship. Now, is Minnesota a tough place to play in November? Absolutely can be. You talk about Big Ten football. Yeah, Minnesota embodies that. But this Penn State team, someone's going to get to them. I don't know who they're going to match up with in the playoff. But I've got some TCU vibes here with Penn State. I've got some vibes of, yeah, they deserve to be in the playoff because results have to matter above all else. But someone is going to put together a complete game. And Ohio State didn't put together a complete game, by the way, when they played them in Happy Valley a few weeks ago. That wasn't a complete Ohio State game. Will Howard threw a pick six and turned the ball over at the goal line. He doesn't do those things. That's a different game. But they did. Penn State forced those mistakes, and they deserve full credit for it. But if Ohio State were to play the way that they did against Indiana today, against Penn State again, that's Ohio State by 20. That is absolutely Ohio State by 20. Now, Penn State does deserve credit. Going on the road in conference to a good team late in the year when everybody's a little beat up, it's not an easy thing to do. We watched Oregon struggle with Wisconsin last week. Oregon's on a bye this week, and I guarantee you the Ducks are very thankful for that for many reasons. It is not easy to go on the road. Penn State should be rewarded for the win, not punished. But I continue to raise questions about how good they truly are and what their ceiling actually is. They are going to be a matchup-dependent team for me as to whether I could see them winning a college football playoff game. I think if you catch the wrong at-large team who's not a conference champion, I think Penn State could get rolled in the first round. They're not going to get a bye. They're going to get to host a playoff game. That's going to be undoubtedly one of the best parts of the 12-team playoff is places like Penn State or Tennessee, perhaps, depending on how the seeding shakes out. Home playoff game environments, electric. I'm here for it. And Penn State deserves it. I do not have a lot of confidence in them with the way they've been playing in the last couple of weeks. So we'll see. We'll see how they do against Maryland. I imagine they will be just fine. We'll see who they match up with. I think that's going to depend entirely if they're able to have any sort of postseason success. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.